What's going on, Winning Shot family? You will not believe the trade that Hundo just proposed to me, but we gonna talk about it in the freestyle portion of the show. Man, we missed y'all. Man, we had a lot of content coming your way. A lot of things have happened since we last potted in the NFL and NBA world. But if you have been following these NBA playoffs, you've seen Game One of the Western Conference Finals, which was an all-timer between SGA and Wemby. And Hundo's Knicks are finally in the NBA Finals. We're going to talk about all of that and more with this episode. But Hundo, I want to start with a little rant. Because I was driving to work today and I was thinking about something. I wasted my time watching Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals with Cleveland Cavaliers. And then I had a sudden epiphany. The Cleveland Cavaliers are Bishop Sycamore. For those who forgot, Bishop Sycamore was a high school football team in Ohio that somehow got on ESPN's flagship broadcast. They were even ranked nationally, and they had all the hype and celebrities endorsing them. And then they made the mistake of going on live television and playing IMG. And there was nobody on the team. When you actually dug into the roster, you realized that there were a lot of fabrications that were happening. And I believe that this is what the Cavaliers were on May 25th, 2026. 130 to 93. That don't even sound like a real basketball score in this era. That sounds like an all-star game score. And what kills me about this team is like we have a bunch of guys who had a lot of hype. You got James Harden, you got Evan Mobley, you got Jared Allen, and then you got Spider. All guys who were deemed as stars, or if not next up. And they've gone from series after series, beating Detroit. Everybody thought that was a great win. Then they go and beat the Raptors, who took them to 7. And I think that this Eastern Conference Final had to happen the way it did so that they could get exposed. The Knicks scored 22 straight points in Game 1, fourth quarter. And I feel like from there, everything was broken on that team. We know what James Harden is because we know what James Harden was. From the time that he was with the Rockets, from Brooklyn to Philly, James Harden has constantly disappeared in the playoffs. And Cleveland did the unwise thing of trading away Darius Garland, and I think there were picks in there, for James Harden because they thought that James Harden was going to be the one to take them over the hump. And I sat there, and I was not even surprised with James Harden's performance because this is what I expected. But then I thought about it, and I was like, this is the one time I can't put it on James Harden. Because then I looked at Donovan Mitchell, missing layups, not playing defense. And then he goes on the sideline, and he's trying to hype up a team. And I was looking at Jared Allen, and Jared Allen was like, it's your fault. Like, you're the one that's leading us astray from where we could be. And so I think the same way that we are looking at James Harden, I feel like we need to start looking at Spider. Because Spider's entire reputation was built on something that evaporated the moment that you actually had to perform. We see the 50-point games. We see all of the huge, impressive dunks. But I feel like this was the one time Spider could have performed in Madison Square Garden in the Eastern Conference Finals. This is what he wanted. A couple of years ago, they were talking about Spider going to Madison Square and being a part of the Knicks. He had his moment, and he let us all down. In Utah, he had Rudy Gobert hiding his defensive weaknesses. And in Cleveland, you have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. And someone is always there to cover for him. This time it was James. Last year it was Evan. And while those other people do need to perform, I do believe that Spider does deserve some of the blame for how the Cleveland went out. And so here's the thing about Bishop Sycamore that everybody remembers. It wasn't that they were just bad, but that they were fraudulent, that they fabricated all of these rankings. And I feel like we need to stop saying that the Cavs are contenders with Kenny Atkinson because they're a bunch of frauds, a bunch of could-be's on their roster. And I feel like Spider is going from he just needs help to no, he's more like Harden and disappears when it matters most. So I hope Donovan gets better. But as of now, I'm with you, though. I feel like Spider has to get some of the blame, and we'll see what they do in the offseason. But right now, that we got to, when you clip this up, please put that meme of Jalen Tyson saying that it was Donovan Mitchell City now, because no, it's not. It's never going to be Donovan Mitchell City, because as long as he disappears, I feel like he's just going to be robbing Cleveland and robbing the league of what he actually could be.
Bishop Sycamore. Fraudulent.
That was pitiful. Bruh, we're gonna start there, man. Before we get into the Knicks, I have to say something about the Cavs, because it's just like, what do you think went wrong? Everybody's saying it was game one when the Knicks came back from 22, that they were broken as a team and kind of mailed it off then. But like, we've seen this team beat the Raptors. Impressive. They walked down Detroit and beat them in 7 games. Like, what happened? Were the Knicks just too good, or do you think it was all just Cleveland giving up?
Yeah, I mean, I think both things can be true. I think when you're talking about like a series, definitely that's a deflating way to lose the first game, but like, you don't just pack it in at that point, because it's a series. Like, yeah, you lost that first game, you blew a 22-point lead, whatever it was, and that's tough. But you gotta find a way to bounce back. And this has been a team that we've talked about this year and last year. Like, they're returning the core of last year's team outside of Garland and bringing in James Harden, but they underperformed in the regular season. They got to the playoffs. They actually played how we expected them to be playing in the regular season. And then this happens. It's just like pretty much the story of their season. It's like they play good. They don't play good. You just don't know what you're going to get from this team. And we were talking about it before with Mobley, but like, you just don't know what you're going to get from him on the offensive side of the ball night in and night out. So it's like you have to be consistent, especially when you're trying to be a top elite team in the league. You got to have consistency. And for them, unfortunately, the consistency is bad.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully, they definitely got to make some changes. I don't know what's that going to be, because as we talked about before, Donovan Mitchell is due for a big contract. So, with you saying what you just said, do you think he should get paid?
Well, I think we're going to talk about this at the end of the episode, but I think Cleveland kind of has to, unless you trade him. I feel like now is probably the highest in terms of value he'll be for the rest of his career. And I think that Cleveland should, at least take calls. But I feel like with bringing Kenny back, I think internally, I think that they believe they just hit a juggernaut with this Knicks team, and they think that they can run it back. And like Kenny Atkinson, he made a comment saying that they took a step, and I feel like they think that, okay, this is the first time we went to an Eastern Conference Finals, and kind of like the Celtics is like, you have to lose these games in order to, take that next step. But I feel like it's kind of different because, when Celtics were saying that, both of the Jays were young. Harden is kind of older, and while you do have a young core, you're still waiting for that young core to take the next step with, Mobley. And I guess you can say Donovan's young still, but he's still, he's kind of getting up there too.
Yeah. And I'm interested to see like what other moves can they make, because if you keep Mitchell, assuming Harden is going to be returning as well, the core is still going to be the same as this year and last year. So it's like, what significant moves can you make to truly get over the hump? Whether that's role players, they tried to bring in Dennis Schroeder. We'll see. So I don't know. It's gonna be.
But I guess with that though is like, I think one of the issues that I saw with like, game one is, I was listening to Draymond, and he was talking about how, they never, like, the Cavs try to put Steph in that same kind of like isolation during the finals, but Draymond as a defender and have a defensive mindset, he's like, he wasn't going to let Steph get cooked like that for 18 straight possessions. And I think like with Kenny Atkinson, like one of his knocks has been just that defensive efficiency and his defensive ratings. And I guess what do you do in offseason? Do you bring in more defenders because Harden's not changing? He's only getting older. And how do you prevent him just being a cone out there while his offensive production is slowly waning?
Yeah, and I think too, like to that point, it's like, yo, coaches got to be willing to make adjustments and make changes. You
Yeah.
can't have somebody out there getting attacked like that religiously every possession and you're not making any changes. Like either get him out the game, something, send a double team. You gotta do something. So I don't know, man. I think part of it too is coaching too. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I guess for me, before I let you, go off on the Knicks, one of the things that I saw with Mike Brown is that both teams tried to play fast, but the Knicks were playing fast and efficient. And I think that that's a testament to Mike Brown. But I also believe that efficiency wasn't just on the offensive end, but it was on the defensive end, that every possession mattered. And one of the things that I noticed was they could have packed it in like yet last night in the fourth quarter because they were up by like 22, 24 points, but they were still playing full court. And so the bench players were keeping that defensive intensity. And I can tell that that was something that Mike Brown preached, you know, I guess after that meeting, game 3 of the Hawks, because, collectively in these last 11 games, Knicks have had one of the best records. And just in terms of blowouts, they've had the best efficiency, in NBA history. So I think that was one thing. And then the next thing was the bench depth. Like I never thought that Landry Shamet could give you this production that he's been giving you now. And I believe that if he can continue to do that, I really do think the Knicks do have a chance, depending on who else comes out, out west. But like, I think even just your secondary players, your Deuce McBride's, I'm blanking on it, but even like Alvarado, like these guys that are coming in and giving you good minutes, kind of bolsters what the Knicks core does when Jalen can sit down. And also, Cat is playing more of a Draymond role, but offensively, where he's kind of playing that point center role. And I think that kind of gives him what he wants in terms of being kind of the center of the offense. But also, too, I think that a lot of the teammates like OG, Michael, and Josh Hart are actually gelling around Cat and Brunson. And so like I think the thing with Thibodeau is like Thibodeau played a lot of ISO one-on-one balls, and if somebody was cooking, he would just let them cook, which was good. But I can see even just yesterday, there's a lot more unity and camaraderie, and I think the offense flows a little bit better. And we know that Mike Brown has coached a number of stars, but he also was on the Warriors roster, and I think some of those same kind of ideological strategies he's tried to implement with this team, this Knicks team, which I think kind of brings out the strengths and covers a lot of the weaknesses with this team, which we saw in other playoffs with Thibodeau.
Yeah, to your point too with like Shamit, it's like I'm glad he's hooping. Like it's almost like a resurgence in his career. Because a lot of people have forgotten about him. But he's a high level shooter. He's showing that in his postseason run, that he can still shoot at a high level. And like you said, balls moving, we're finding guys. Everybody's getting to their spots. Mikel's knocking down big shots, getting to his spots. OG has been playing good. It's like everybody is clicking at the right time. Josh Hart doing Josh Hart things all over the floor. Also hitting big shots. Like everybody's just hot right now. So like you gotta take advantage of these wins, take advantage of how everybody's playing, and see what happens in the Western Conference, because it's gonna be tough. It ain't gonna be sweet. Like we talked about before, it's like we finally got over the hump, got past the got out the Eastern Conference. That was goal number one, especially after firing Tibbs. It's like, yo, we got to make it out the East. We made it out the East. All right, what's next? Got to win a championship. we gonna see what happens. We gonna see. But if we shooting
Yeah.
the ball, how we shooting the ball and playing defense, how we can play defense, I like our chances.
So, okay. It's been since 1999. How do you feel as a Knicks fan? At like your entire life, the Knicks have been either close or been trash. And now we see a little bit of consistency, and y'all finally have reached the pinnacle. Talk me through what is the life of a Knicks fan going through right now, the mind of a Knicks fan going.
It's exciting times. But like I said, for me, we gotta win it all. It means absolutely nothing to get this far and lose. Oh yeah, you were the second best team in the NBA. Whoop de doo. So I mean, I'm glad we're here. It's been a long road. It's been a long time coming. I wouldn't have expected, a Jalen Brunson led team to be the team to, get here. But hey, we here. He's hooping. Cat's hooping. It's exciting times, man.
So, okay. Does it worry you that y'all were sweeping these teams and now you have a full 8 days before the final start? Because I know sometimes people love the rest, but I do believe in this idea that you can have too much rest where, game one, the team that just came out west is a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more ready to play than the Knicks.
I like the rest, especially with OG probably still dealing with the hamstring injury. We gonna need him on the court at some point, healthy, playing at a high level. Out west, OKC is banged up. We saw J Dub leave the game. We saw AJ Mitchell miss a game. If they keep going down and they mess around and win this series, hey, us being healthy, us resting, good. Same thing with San Antonio. De'Aaron Fox, keep on running around on that ankle. Keep on, keep on. We saw how Castle looked without you turning the ball over. Hey, I like the rest for us.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in between because I think for a team like the Spurs, the keep like continuously playing, it actually helps them, I think, a little bit more because these young guys are actually seeing different things through OKC, and I think they'll still be ready to play. I personally picked the Spurs to win it all. So I really think that the right now attrition is hurting the Thunder a lot more than the Spurs. And I agree with you. Like, Jalen Williams got paid for a reason. He's a big piece to their offensive production. And even defensively, I think he covers up a lot. And with AJ Mitchell, I think one of the things with the Lakers is that they had nobody to guard everybody. And so AJ Mitchell was able to expose, the Lakers defensively. And so I think that's one less thing the Knicks have to worry about. So like currently constructed, I would want a beaten and battered Thunder more than I would a beaten and battered Spurs, because Wemby is so great, as we're getting ready to talk to, that I think he can cover up more weaknesses than like a Chet or SGA can.
Yeah, I think so. But then I go back to the guard play. Like them boys are young, especially if Fox isn't out there. If Fox is unable to go a few messes around and messes up that ankle again, boy, it's about to be barbecue chicken out there for them guards. We getting up in them. Pause. Mikael, OG, Jose, we need all the steals. Turn them boys over. And
yeah, that's another thing.
About Wemby covering up nothing. They got to be able to get the ball down court.
Yeah, we know Stephon Castle has a turnover problem, and I think hopefully De'Aaron is able to play. One last question before we move over to the Western Conference. If y'all don't win, was the firing still justified with Tom Thibodeau?
I mean, I think so. I wouldn't say justified, but I get it because I still don't think the man should have been fired. But we here now. We in the finals. Like, we got past the place where we couldn't get past, right? We made it out the Eastern Conference. So I
Yeah.
mean, I think for Mike, he did a good job. I assume they're going to run it back with him, even if we do lose. Um, but once again, it's like you second place. Like the ultimate goal is to bring banners and bring championships to New York. So until that happens, you can make a case that it wasn't justified in a sense, because that's the ultimate goal is to win a championship.
Yeah. But I guess for me, like, obviously I'm not a Knicks fan, but one thing I can say is that the team, the flow just looks better. Obviously, we know from those vintage Thibodeau teams with Chicago is like they're predicated on defense, and sometimes they can look ugly. But I think just the way the league is moving, the Knicks needed this kind of rebrand and resurrection, because I think it's going to help everybody's career if you can kind of like win by 1,000 cuts rather than just relying on Cat and Jalen Brunson. Just in terms of injuries, just in terms of just like the way you can construct rosters in the future. Because I think if Cat can step into more of a quote unquote Jokic role where he can kind of control the offense from the top of the key, then I think you can bank on like Landry Shamet type players to knock down shots and cut and move the ball, because you still have to think about Jalen Brunson in the back of your head. But I think it kind of opens the possibilities up more, because one of the things you were ranting about last year was just like Jalen Brunson would do the 6 dribbles, at the top of the key, and then it'll get down in the shot clock, and either he'll pass it to somebody or he would try to shoot over somebody. And while it did work, it definitely reared its head when you played at Indiana, who played at a much faster pace, and some of these other teams. But now you can kind of win different ways, which is why I think Mike Brown kind of opened up that offense a little bit more, and why I think it was justified.
Yeah, and even like to your point about Cat, it's just like he even said it the other day. He was like, "We just got to hold it down for Brunson in the fourth quarter." So when the fourth quarter comes, he's ready to go. So, shoot, I'm with the play style. I love it. Get everybody involved. I feel like we got several guys that can go out and get 20 points a night, whether that's McHale, OG, Cat, Brunson, even Josh Hart if he's hot. So I mean, I like it. I like this style. Hopefully, Brunson doesn't revert back to the 6 dribble pull up and killing the shot clock and trying to make something happen late. We still see flashes of it every now and then, but it's not nearly as much as last year. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump over to the Western Conference. I remember my dad told me about early Shaq in Orlando. And those some of the things is like you can look at the highlights and see him and Penny and kind of understand Shaq was dominant. But my dad was telling me how much Shaq coming in shifted the league, and it changed the brand of basketball. And obviously, we know that as Shaq progressed from Orlando to LA, teams reconstructed their rosters and had 3 or 4 bigs on their roster in order to accommodate playing against Shaq. I think we're watching that in real time with Wemby. I think in 20 years, we'll be telling our kids, grandchildren about this guy named Victor that is in conversations for the greatest of all time. And, when we see good players come through year after year, we want to give them that title, namely like a Cooper Flag, whatnot, who's going to be a good player. But when I look at Victor, I see generational. Like that's the example of generational. And when I look at the stats and I look at his plus or minus when he's off the court, we can even go back to the Minnesota series, that the times that Victor would sit down, Minnesota would be more prone to driving the basketball, getting to the rim. And we saw them cutting the leads and, win games just because of the rotation between Victor being on the court versus off the court. Why I say that is because when I watch these past 4 games now, I think that Oklahoma is in a real conundrum with the Victor problem, because I think one of their claims to fame was getting to the rim, Shea getting easy shots, in the dunker spot, or, being able to drive the lane and getting all the way to the hole, drawing fouls. But I think that one of the most impressive things that I've been able to see is that Victor, number one, is able to guard and block shots and help on the help side without fouling. And number two is that when he's in the game, he affects both sides of the ball. That he can knock down the 15-footer, and obviously he can dunk the ball. And when he's in pressure spots, we see that there's moments where he's just throwing it off the rim to himself so he can reposition and get to the rim that way. And it's just amazing to watch. But I want to get your take on like what you've seen thus far in the Western Conference Finals and what the conversation is now about Wemby, because we see that SGA won the MVP, but when I'm watching the playoffs, I personally can see who the most valuable player is.
Yeah. And we kind of talked about this on a previous episode, but like that man Wemby is different, bro. That man is different, bro. Like you said, he changed the game on both sides of the ball. Whether it's his ability to shoot from three and being 7'5", pulling bigs out the paint, changing team's offensive strategy, protecting the rim, being able to guard on the perimeter as well. Like, Buddy's different, bro. And like you said, generational, bro. Like, we were talking about Zion, Cooper Flag, all these guys. It's just like, we thought that was generational. This is generational right here. Like, this is special, bro. Like, bro, the things he can do at 7'4", 7'5", I've never seen it before.
Yeah. And it's not him just trying to do it. He's fluid. His behind the back, between the legs, making these KD-like moves. Like, I know everybody's talking about that, with 26 seconds left in that first game where he's knocking down shots from the logo. Like, no big is regularly pulling up like that because it would look choppy and people would only do that at the center position in my lifetime when the clock was going down, right? And I think we had kind of saw this, like in my mind, I'd imagine this is what Phil Jackson thought when he drafted Kristaps years ago. And it's just like all coming to fruition. Like, this is the perfected Chet Holmgren. This is the perfected Kristaps. And I think that we have believed that it could happen. But, everybody thought that this kind of player is something you make in 2K and you just turn the game off. But it's like, no, this guy, he's doing all these things. And we haven't even seen the prime Victor yet. Like, this is still Victor trying to figure it out.
And he's a dog, bro. He's a dog. He out there trying to kill whoever in front of him.
Yeah. And I imagine, bro.
I love his mentality, dog.
And I'd imagine Minnesota's looking down the bench at Rudy and like, hey, what happened? Like, y'all both come from the same place, y'all both about the same height, and you getting paid $300 million, and this guy is almost, half of that salary.
Hey, Rudy need to get in the lab, man. Go get in the lab. Might be too late, but go get in the lab.
Right. So what are your thoughts been about the series thus far?
I've enjoyed it, man. Like we talked about before, 2 MVP candidates going at it. SGA has been struggling at times, but they have a deep enough roster to keep them in games. Even when they're down, they can come back at any moment.
Yeah.
The big question mark is, what are you going to do about Wemby on the other side? They might try the double big lineup even more with Chet and Zay. But we'll see. I feel like Zay has been giving them good minutes, especially hitting that little floater right in front of the basket. I think he had like the first 8 or 10 points there a couple games ago for OKC. So it's like, even though Shea is struggling, they're still in games. Like, I love how Caruso's been playing. He's been giving them very good minutes. Even Jared McCain giving them good minutes. Big Jay Williams giving them good minutes. So it literally can go either way. Literally can go either way. As a Knicks fan, I probably will want to see San Antonio probably still. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I think, like you said, and what I said before the series is really going to come down to the role players, because we know what SGA and Victor can do. But I think the role players' ability or inability to make shots is what's going to change the series. Obviously, game 2, nobody expected Big Jalen Williams to have a career night. but it seemed like every time that Victor or whoever was guarding him was helping off, he was knocking down those 3-pointers every time, which gives Shea a little bit of relief. And like you said, like with Caruso, it's just comical how he's with the Lakers. They underpaid him. He goes to Chicago and he ends up with the Thunder, and he seems like a insignificant piece. But I think that his veteran knowledge and IQ was shown in that game too, which really swung the series, because when it started out, it was 15-0. And I was like, oh, this is going to be 3-0 Spurs. Like, this series is over. And now it's been swung in a way where, this is a pivotal game tonight. And even some of the guys like a Kassan Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins can come in and just keep the boat afloat. And I think that's one of the big deals with OKC that's not talked about enough, but that's a credit to Sam Presti and a lot of the staff putting the team together in a way where Shea doesn't have to do it all. I feel like one of the issues, though, I see is that Chet is playing timid, and without Jalen Williams, Steph is begging for a second option. And I don't know if Chet is there yet in terms of his development, which is scary because, like, when we talk about it, Evan Mobley, you've had time. But I feel like you said, not only is Wemby a dog, but we can see clearly that Wemby has a vendetta against Chet. And Wemby is eating up those minutes. And I feel like Chet doesn't seem like he wants to battle against Wemby. He just wants to win the game. But because of the media and because of how this game is constructed, Chet needs to have more of a dog. Like, I want to go at Wemby too. And I don't know if you can build that in the course of 2 weeks now that it's 2-2.
Yeah, you got to have that dog in you, and
Thanks.
Clearly doesn't have that dog in him to be going back and forth with Wemby or whatever is being built up in the media. But like you said, clearly Wemby don't like the man, and he going at him, trying to kill him every time. But I don't know, man. Like I said, like Caruso's been giving them good minutes. But clearly the J-Dub injury has been big. Like, you need him out there. Like you talked about with his defense alone, like, he covers up a lot. You still got Lou Dort out there. So hopefully they can get J-Dub back. Because they're going to need him.
Yeah. So I guess like going forward in the series, like, are you rocking with the Spurs, or like, are you your pick the same?
Yeah, I think I'm still rocking with the Spurs. Wemby's just a dog, bro. It's hard to bet against 7-4, 7-5. Hopefully Castle can take care of the ball. Like I said earlier, if De'Aaron Fox is out there, I like their backcourt, but they don't need Castle running the point. And I feel like Harper is still young. Like, I feel like he still has some developing to do. And it's a good thing that they still have De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I still have the Spurs too. My hope is that the Spurs can be healthy going into this next series, because I feel like there's a lot of players on the Spurs that are having to play almost NBA Finals level basketball at like 70-80%. And I just pray that, bigger injuries don't come from that. But yeah, I just feel like the Jalen Williams injury is like showing more and more each day. And so I feel like if the Spurs are going to continue to exploit that, and I feel like they kind of figured out SGA defensively. And those boys, like you said, it's not just about Wemby, but like Stephon Castle's a dog too. Like, defensively, like, nobody's talking about his production. And you got guys like Vassell and Champagnie who are willing and able defenders who are able to knock down shots. And I feel like it's really the embodiment of those 3-and-D guys, and they play collectively as a unit on a string. And I feel like a lot of their, like, Davion had made this comment, is like their bench is still there's still meat off that bone, with the bench, because you're still expecting a little bit more from Keldon Johnson. And obviously Dylan Harper has come to play, but we know that he's not fully healthy yet. So it's like, once he gets back to full form, it's really scary what that second unit can do in addition to Wemby. And whenever the Spurs get to a place like OKC where Wemby can just sit down, I think they're going to be unstoppable as a unit.
Yeah. Shout out to Vassell for sure. He's definitely been giving them some good minutes. But like when you look at this series, right? It's 2-2. Game 5 is the night. Assuming OKC is playing without J Dub, if they find a way to win this series, what does it say about the Spurs?
If the Thunder wins the series,
Yeah, and J Dub isn't playing.
well, I think Wemby covers up a lot because J Dub did play in the first game, and the Wemby, and the Spurs still won. I think they'll say that there's still steps to be taken. I don't know if the Spurs are the type to make any drastic moves, but like the problem with the Thunder is like you're going to have to start paying these guys, and the roster is going to look differently. So I think that's kind of the dangerous thing about Spurs. Everybody believes that Wemby has to take steps in order to become that dynasty, but like they're playing with house money right now because I think right now, roster for roster, I'll take the Spurs. But I don't think anybody or me would say anything crazy. I think it'd just be disappointing that we don't get to see Wemby in Madison Square.
And speaking about Wemby and dynasties, you want to talk about the comment that you had in the group chat the other day?
Which comment was this?
About the dynasties, about the Wemby and the Tim Duncan. you want to bring that up?
Yeah, what Hundo was referring to is there was a meme. I think it was Wemby, TP, and Manu, and Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, and Wemby. And I got a little too high on my horse. This was after game 1, by the way, where I was asking who would be better. and Hundo made the comment that they haven't done anything yet. But honestly, like I think in terms of legacy, obviously TP and them are up there. But I feel like Tim has never seen a Wemby, and I feel like there would still be a lot of issues. But until I see Wemby and them go do it, I can't put them over them right now.
Okay,
I got a little too high on my horse. I will say game one, the sports world was drunk. So I just hey.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, like just let me be delusional in peace.
Nah, but yeah, that man, that's a generational talent right there, bro. Like,
bro. And if he does it in Madison Square Garden, I feel like the worlds are converging for Wemby, because if he can go on this gauntlet and beat OKC and then win in a even if it's a game 7 in Madison Square, I think just his global influence will skyrocket past a lot of the guys that we think are superstars right now. I think he'll be that guy in all the sports.
Face of the league.
Easily. And the crazy thing is he's not even shooting that good from 3. So it's like if he even adds that to his game, it's over.
Bro, because before this series, I know I said it. I'm like, but he's taking too many threes. He's selling for too many threes.
You did.
Boy, that man playing different right now, bro.
Yeah. And it feels like, I was questioning Mitch Johnson in the game too, because like, bro, he just needs to play 48 minutes. But I think they went into the series knowing it was going to be a marathon, that it was going to be a 6 or 7 game series. So I appreciate it from that end, because if he played 48 minutes game 2 and they lost, it would have been over quicker. So I feel like, Mitch Johnson, that Spurs staff is smart. So I'm curious to know what it looks like, because everybody can get hurt on that roster, just not Wemby. Just not Wemby. As long as you have Wemby, you got a chance.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start with the Spurs, though. How can the New York Knicks beat the Spurs?
Hope that Wemby's taking a lot of threes. Hope that the role players, don't get the cooking. Try to get Wemby in foul trouble. So he has to go sit down. That makes them more of a normal team, because like we talked about, Wemby changes the game on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be interested to see, who matches up with him, because if Cat's guarding him, Cat, we can't have you getting in foul trouble, bro.
That's a fact.
So we'll see. But I definitely think it starts with Wemby. Like, you got to find a way to either get him out the game or take him out of his game. like I said, if De'Aaron Fox messes around and messes up that ankle, we gotta feast on these young guards. We gotta pressure the ball, get up, pressure the ball, try to force some turnovers, and get out and run.
Yeah, it's crazy to say this, but I really think that emphasizing putting a wall on Wemby, and like OKC did in the first and second game, is like pushing him out of the paint so he's catching the ball in the perimeter and on the free throw line. Because I feel like once he gets in the restricted area, it's over, right? He's just too tall, he's too big. Pause. But I think that one of the things with the Knicks is like you're gonna need everything out of the role players. Like Landry Shamet can't regress back to old Landry Shamet. Like he has to continue to play big. Deuce McBride has to be able to knock down shots. And I think like the one thing with Stephon Castle is that he's turnover prone. I think if you can capitalize off of those turnovers, it kind of changes the complexion of what they have to do. And the biggest thing is starting off strong, because one of the Spurs' biggest strength is they always start fast and they get off to these big leads. And when Wemby gets out the game, then it's a problem. But I think if you can contain that early start, then I think that kind of rattles, their game plan. Because what I think they're trying to do is like, let's get off to this big start. Then once Wemby gets out, it'll rest back to the mean, and we can continue to play that kind of game. But I'm curious to know what it looks like for a Knicks team that, the game is like, let's say it's like 24-24, or let's say like 20-20, and then Wemby's out. Now you gotta play chess. It's like, do I take Wemby out now, or do I keep him in the game, which hurts in terms of attrition and fatigue going into the later in the game. So yeah, I really think it's gonna be a big chess match. But Mike Brown, he's coached legends, so I hope that he can make adjustments with this team versus Wemby.
And I would be interested to see too, like if the Spurs and the Knicks are in the finals, like how do these star players show up in the biggest stage?
Yeah,
like either one has been, whether it's Cat, Brunson, Wemby, Castle, nobody's been to the finals. So how are you gonna look when the lights are bright? Y'all the only two teams playing. How do you perform under that pressure? So hopefully, Brunson doesn't revert back to old ways. And hopefully we get the best basketball of the season.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of crazy if Brunson gets the finals and a finals MVP before Luka, knowing that they were on the same team.
Yeah.
But I think Brunson he's been not loathing, but he's been waiting for this moment. Everybody said he couldn't do it. And I feel like you said, what the only issue with that is he regrets back to me where he makes it about him. But I feel like in terms of knocking down big shots and having big moments, this is Jalen Brunson's game, like series right here. It could be. So
we're gonna see.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Like we still got a ways to go, so hopefully the Spurs can get it done. But what else? What else you got?
I guess we on the hoop talk segment now. Just freestyle it. I know we talked about Mobley and Chet. If you wanted to bring that conversation to the pod.
Yeah, man. I was listening to this pod earlier yesterday during Memorial Day, and they were just having a conversation about who better, in terms of different players. And there was a conversation regarding the All NBA third team because Chet made it, and so there were some questions about who got snubbed. And I don't know how the conversation shifted, but they got into the conversation versus Evan Mobley versus Chet. And, it was basically a pretty intense discussion because there were still some Mobley believers in the room. But, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are because I think Chet is getting a bad rap, like we talked to before the podcast. But I feel like it's just because he's going against Wemby. Just one of those guys where Wemby is just going to make a lot of people look small, look less than. But, I think Holmgren's still a good player. And I think the USC Mobley and him coming out of the draft, people expected so much more. But I think he's yet to do that in Cleveland. So in terms of my opinion, I still think Chet is better than Evan.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, but I mean, in Evan's defense, man, did just win Defensive Player of the Year, didn't he?
He did.
Last year or this year?
No, I think it's last year.
Last year. Yeah. And he was in the conversation this year. I think Wemby got it this year, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm excited to see Chet continue to grow. Like you said, Wemby's gonna make a lot of people look small. You got to come to play. You got to have that dog in you. And I don't think Chet has that dog in him right now. But as far as those two, I'm taking Mobley. I'm leaning towards Mobley. Like we talked about before the pod, he just has to be more consistent on the offensive side. I think that's really his biggest thing is that he's just so inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get from him on the offensive end. Defensively, like I mentioned, one of the top, premier inside defenders in the league. So I think consistency is going to be the big thing, specifically on the offensive end. And then Chet, I don't know, bro. Like we talked about before, bro. Like he's the third option on, a championship caliber team. So it's like if you put him in a different situation, his number is probably better, probably gets highlighted a little bit more. But I think him playing alongside J Dub and SGA, a lot of people aren't necessarily looking for him, checking for
him. Scotty or Evan Mobley?
I like Scotty game coming out of Florida State, bro. I just like his ability to handle the ball and pretty much do everything on the court from an offensive standpoint. He still has to improve on his jump shot, his 3-point shot, but I'm gonna take Scotty, me personally. I like his versatility and, like I say, his ability to do pretty much everything on the offensive end.
Yeah, Scotty is definitely an interesting case study because he wasn't even a starter most of the season. He was at Florida State and still got drafted in the lottery, which was interesting. I feel like Scotty is slowly coming into form and like what we imagine him to be because he's not just contributing offensively, but he's also anchoring that team defensively now. Mm-hmm. And the only thing though is like I just don't know what to expect from Mobley with this current roster because I'm curious to know if it was the Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell show, and now James Harden versus Donovan Mitchell, like he doesn't seem like the one thing I can say about him and Chet is like they haven't had a roster where they were the center focal point versus the Raptors were kind of building that roster around Scotty, when he came into the league. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, I can't think of anybody else besides maybe Fred was on that team. But because that's why I'm kind of holding out space where like a Dylan Harper comes into the league and he's on the bench with the Spurs and we can see the flashes of his greatness, but we know that if he was on a team by himself, he would look a lot like a franchise player. We know that. But like, I think that same thing is kind of why I'm giving a little bit of grace to Chet and Evan versus the Scotty, because I like Scotty out of all of them, but I haven't seen Evan with his own team. Maybe in Memphis or maybe in Sacramento, he's looking like a, all NBA kind of guy. But like, I just don't know what that looks like now, but I don't know.
Yeah. Like we talked about before, like situation matters. So we gonna see. I don't know, bro. I don't see either one of them two being, I don't know, faces of the franchise type players. Like I said, I just haven't seen the consistency offensively from Mobley. And then Chet, you gotta have that dog in you, bro. You gotta have that dog in you, bro.
Facts. I feel like another topic that I had was around the Pistons, because I don't know if we talked since the Pistons got eliminated. We might have, but like, what do you think the Pistons need going forward? And like, what's the narrative around Cade? Because I got a who better for you, but I was curious to know, like, what do you think about the Pistons right now? Because I'm hearing some rumblings with Giannis, but like I told you over text, is like, I think it's Trey Murphy is probably the most realistic guy they bring in. But then after that answer, I had a question, but between the who better with Cade and De'Aaron Fox.
Cade and De'Aaron Fox.
Yes, that was the next topic they brought up.
I'm taking Cade easily, just off of age. Just off age alone, bro. And that man finished like fourth in MVP voting this year, didn't he? It's like
He
fourth or
did.
fifth MVP voting. Like I'm easily taking Cade. Like that's not
It's
a
crazy. It's
that's
crazy
not a
because people were saying De'Aaron Fox. And I'm like, man, Cade was putting up 40, and he is Detroit's offense.
Yeah, they tripping with that one. I have no explanation for why somebody would take De'Aaron Fox over Cade, but hey, everybody got an opinion, I guess. But as far as Detroit goes, I feel like that Detroit series, like and throughout the playoffs, it just showed that like Doran had a great regular season, but like, can he really be the second option? I don't know if I don't even know if I want to have my second option being somebody that I can't throw the ball to and do post moves and offensive moves. He's a dunker. He's a dunker. Like that's what he is. Like I need more than that. So hopefully they go get a wing. I don't think Trey Murphy is the answer. Me personally. Like that's a good piece to have, but like if we're talking like second, third option, that's not getting them over the hump. I don't think so.
Well, I don't either, but I think based on what I'm reading, that seems like the most realistic option because I think the KD that's out the door. I think like the Ja conversation doesn't make sense because Cade is a ball dominant guard. He has
Mhm.
been since OK State. I think the Giannis conversations. I think in terms of what other teams could potentially offer in terms of picks and assets, I think Detroit's kind of middle of the pack in terms of trade packages. And I just don't know who the other guy would be, like in terms of like, okay, I can go and grab this asset. And the other thing too, no hate, but it's like I live here, and like I can say that like this is not like a free agent destination. So in terms of cap space, you're gonna have to pay Duran. You already paying Cade on the max, and I don't know what other max potential free agent would want to just come to Detroit. So I think Trey Murphy would have to be through a trade.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like there's some better trade candidates. What about your boy MPJ?
That's another option, but I have another trade cooking up for him later in the show. But I think like the thing is it comes down to, do you want to be here? And like what does that look like for you? Because like I think my only fear with MPJ is like he's gotten a taste of his own team with Brooklyn. And while he did put up some good numbers, I don't know what it looks like for him to come to Detroit and kind of take a back seat to Cade and maybe Duran, even though Duran still might be like a third or fourth option. And then the question is going to be around Asar because we saw what Houston's getting ready to pay. Amen. Does Asar command that same kind of money?
What he was on our defensive team, wasn't he?
Asar?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
he was on like first or something. I want to say maybe first. So I mean, shoot, I made an all defensive team. Forget my lack of shooting. I need to get paid. But what do you think about like a veteran presence? Maybe at the three. Maybe like I don't know, like a DeRozan, maybe.
I don't think DeRozan helps your roster in the way that you need it with the way the league's going. Because DeRozan's not a 3-point threat. I think he can give you 20 a night, but a lot of those are going to be mid-range jumpers. And coming from San Antonio and Sacramento, I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze because, like, I think the problem with Cade and Duran, everything gets crowded quickly. So you need more people to space out the floor while you still have Duncan Robinson. You got Kevin Huerter, but like you need a guy who is a threat on the outside but can still create. And I don't know if that's DeMar DeRozan right now.
What about Zach LaVine?
Zach LaVine would be a good option. I just feel like you kind of start getting into a cost benefit analysis because are you willing to pay that much money for a decent production? Because now that you're paying these guys, the cap gets smaller and smaller. So if you're going to take that risk and potentially go over the cap, you got to get it with a guy that makes sense. and I don't think that team puts you over the hump even in the East. So I don't know. The only thing I can say about Trey Murphy is that he gives you a little bit more versatility where he can stay on the floor and impact the floor, on both ends. And he's not as expensive, but he's also on the same timeline as your core. And I think you can kind of build around that. And, it'll be kind of like a OKC in theory, just kind of getting guys around the same age, timeline. And then maybe he could be a potential trade piece later on. But I feel like in terms of what they're trying to build, you don't want anybody that disrupts their culture. And I think Trey Murphy can be a plug and play guy with that. So, and that's why the KD stuff didn't make sense. Is like one of the things I think the problem with KD is that he's such a journeyman. He doesn't care about culture. He won't care about playing defense for Detroit. He'll respect it, but I don't think that's necessarily him at this point in his career. And people obviously look up to JB, but when you bring Kevin Durant in that room, people are gonna be looking up to Kevin Durant. I'm sorry. And I think if Kevin Durant is not as, engaged in the defensive effort and stuff like that, I don't think the young guys are going to be too inclined to do the same thing.
So what, as far as like play style, like I know you mentioned like shooting, but like you just want a 3-and-D type player or what?
Yeah, I think a 3-and-D type player, but also a guy who is a creator. I feel like a younger CJ McCollum would have been an interesting thought bringing him into Detroit. But you need a guy who Cade can sit down, because if you just look at Cade's usage rating, it's like Cade and the Cade is like it's the Cade show. And so I think that's a big problem, because we saw with the collapsed lung how Detroit quickly regressed back to the mean. But you need a guy that you can pass the ball to, kind of the same concept that Cleveland was trying to do, where Donovan could just pass it to James Harden and James Harden can just rock out. But you need somebody younger who is a solidified bucket in a sense. So the problem is, though, like, with Jalen making the third team, I believe, All NBA, he's now eligible for that 285. It's like, if you're the GM, do you pay him, or do you say, hey, you go see what you can get out in the market? Like, I don't know.
We gonna let him walk. Bruh, that playoff series showed me I'm not paying him that much money. We getting beef stew. We getting who was buddy that they bought off the bench that was hooping?
Paul Reed.
Paul Reed, yeah. We got our bigs. He about to be Hassan Whiteside 2.0.
Yeah, and it's low-key kind of hard to evaluate some of these guys now, because like I feel like Detroit was one of the few teams that actually cared about the regular season too. And it's like these guys who were good, maybe those stats were a little bit inflated because they just played harder in the regular season. I don't know. And with the new rules now, where you have to play those 65 games, he wouldn't have been. I don't know if he would have been at All NBA if you put LeBron in, you put Luka in, you put all these guys who didn't make it in. So it's kind of hard to evaluate and say, as a GM, I know you're eligible for that, but you're more like a 25, 30 a year guy versus paying that full 40, 42 a year. So it's gonna be tricky.
That's a question I got for you. What are your thoughts on money being tied to whether it's all NBA or games played? What are your thoughts on that?
It's bogus to me. I feel like the games played just doesn't make sense, because like Luka averaged 33 points. Like he was leading the league in scoring, and he doesn't make any All NBA team, which is just confusing. Like I get the incentive to like play these guys, but it kind of hurts these awards, because there's like, even though I don't think like LeBron is like the same LeBron as before, like LeBron is still a good player. And like, I think there's players that missed out on, these awards and accolades that we know are better than. So when we go back into in the history of the NBA, there's some guys who probably didn't play as much, but still made the NBA team, all NBA teams, because they were just that good, right? They didn't have to play all those games. Or, there was like a Spurs, Popovich, where some of these guys are just sitting. I feel like for the younger guys, it's good that, like a Duran gets, way more money than he ever would have imagined by making these teams and playing. But I think directly tying it to that and saying that you're eligible for something because of a specific award, I think it's bogus. I think it's just based on leverage and like how you're performing for that team and if that team wants to pay you or not.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, especially when you start impacting people's pockets. I think we saw it with Cade earlier in the season, where he missed games. And it was something. Was it like the All-Star game or was it like MVP voting? What was it? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, so like I don't like that. I get it. I get why they did it, but I don't like that. I don't like people money.
Another topic I have for you, bro, is the conversation around Ja. So like, a couple of years ago, we were talking about Ja potentially being the face of the league, and he did that infamous, we finally everybody in the West, and it's like it's gone downhill since then. But like, I think in terms of the shoe game, like Ja's had one of the most impressive kind of shoe runs, and I think his popularity is still there, but I think it's slowly waning, partly because of his debacle with the Grizzlies organization, but also too with the injuries that have happened at the past 3 seasons. And so, like, do you think this is a pivotal year for Ja? And like, where do you want to see him end up, and where do you think he can go to resurrect his career, or is it him staying in Memphis?
I don't think he should stay in Memphis. Where he should go, I feel like it depends on what he wants. Like, does he want to win? Does he want his own team? What do you want from whatever situation you about to be put in? Because in all honesty, like we talked about before, if Milwaukee keeps Giannis, go up there. The starting point guard spot is open.
And you got Ryan Rollins.
You still a top option. You're probably the second option behind Giannis. Get some more shooters and try to compete in the East.
With that, do you think they keep Ryan Rollins, or will he be a part of the package?
They might have to include him, because who else are you giving up? Bobby Portis, maybe. I mean, they don't have Jaren anymore, so do you maybe throw in Bobby Portis? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, right. If I'm Memphis, I don't walk away without getting Ryan. Personally.
Yeah. Throw in Kuzma.
But if I'm Milwaukee, I don't take that.
You don't want Ja?
No, because if I'm Milwaukee, I think I have a future with my current pick and Ryan Rollins, and I think I can get a better trade and move off of Giannis, because I think Giannis has vocalized he doesn't want to be there, and I don't think Ja and Giannis, it'll be exciting, but I don't think they make it out the East.
Yeah, let's see. I'm not going to Sacramento if I'm Ja. Poverty franchise. Not Portland. They got Dame.
And Denny's kind of like a point too.
Yeah.
Houston.
Houston. Depending on what they do with Fred VanVleet.
I think Fred at this point, like, you might have to come off the pine.
See, I feel like he probably don't think he ready to do that yet. especially looking at how they look this year without him.
Could you trade Franz and go meet Ja and Paolo?
I think they keep that intact in Orlando.
Franz and Paolo?
Yeah, I don't see why they would blow that up. You still got Anthony Black at point guard. You got Suggs down there. I just don't see why they would blow that up. I feel like they made their move for the off season, getting rid of the coach. Hey, shout out to the black man too, man. That man bounced right back. I'm going to New Orleans. Shout out to Mosley, man.
Speaking of that, who do you think? Well, how do you feel about Jason Kidd getting fired, and who do you think takes that?
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit bogus, but I mean, I get it. They got new leadership over there. I don't know, because you got Kyrie coming back. You still got Flag. I feel like it's a good opportunity for whoever gets it. You just got to hope that leadership stays the same. I feel like they've been having a lot of leadership changes over there in recent years, whether it was Mark Cuban selling the team, new ownership. You just got to hope that that's consistent, because clearly their voice is being heard and they're running the show.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the direction Masai wants to go. If he wants to just go young and build around Cooper, trade Kyrie, and just, maybe see what you can get for Gafford. And with that, though, could you, like, Philadelphia is going through a regime change too. Could you just go and get Nick Nurse? That's who you won a championship with in Toronto. And I feel like Nick Nurse has made the most out of, very minuscule situations, even in Toronto. Like, obviously you have Kawhi, but I think he's exceeded expectations everywhere he's been. So that's a potential option. I don't know him and Masai's, relationship post that. And then, like, hear me out. But, like, what about Tiago? Hear me out. Hear me out.
Yeah, you got to explain that one.
Hear me out. Like, I think, obviously, Chauncey's dealings off the court contributed to Tiago getting a job, but, like, them boys exceeded expectations. Some of that is just because, like, nobody was paying attention to Portland.
Yeah.
Denny obviously takes a step up, but those boys played hard. And I think if you get a team to play hard in the regular season, you can at least get to the play-in. And I feel like from where Dallas is going, like, they're a young core, and I don't think they need an old head telling them what to do. I feel like those boys just need to rock out, especially depending on who they get in the draft. Like, if you go get an A-Cuff, like, they just need to be released and be free. And I don't know Tiago that much as a coach, but, like, I can say that those boys got to play free. And I think even Scoot played better under Tiago. So I'm not saying that he's going to be the coach for the future, but I think it could be a good experiment, and it could allow Cooper to open up and be who he is, because we know what he can do, and he'll be cheap. So
is he the long-term answer?
I don't know, but I think there's a lot that remains to be seen with Dallas as a whole. Like you said, there's a lot of organizational changes that are happening. And so with that, I think you just need a bridge guy who can take a team with no expectations and then give them expectations. And I think that's what Tiago did with Portland. If you can't get coach.
My only thing with the Dallas job is just like you said, like, what does the rest of the team look like outside of Cooper? Like, do you keep Kyrie? If you move Kyrie, what are you moving for him? What are you getting for him? Because I got to see what this roster about to look like.
Yeah. I just don't know what Masai's plan is, because, like, you even said a couple pods ago, like, not every team is trying to win. Like, and I think for Dallas, we can see that, winning's not necessarily, like, the focal point, in trading Luka and some of the trades they've made since then. And so like I think the fight is more so for relevance than actually winning, which is kind of a scary place to be in. And like I think in the West, there are too many teams up top who are ready to win. So I don't think it's worth spending a boatload of money, A, for your roster, and B, for your coach. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, allow Cooper to develop, trade Kyrie, and go get young pieces. You got another high draft pick in this year's draft. And even if it's a guy like Darius A. Cup, they can both grow together. And who knows what that roster looked like in, 2 to 3 years. Because, even with Portland now, even if they kept Tiago, there was still hope that they're a formidable team that people want to go to. Before, we were just like, man, Portland's on at 10 o'clock. Nobody cares. But now they're a watchable team. And I think some of that has to be attributed to Tiago. So if they're just fighting for relevance, yeah, I'll just go for a coach who is under the radar and gets the most out of the team. And then when you're ready, you go get a guy who can take you over the hump.
Nasty work out here.
It's crazy.
Nasty work.
But you can't tell me that roster they put out last year, and some of this is Kyrie being injured, but like they weren't trying to win.
I still just wanted to see what they look like healthy, bro. Kyrie, Cooper Flag, and AD, I wanted to see it, bro. I wanted to see it. I wasn't a fan of them trading AD, but I mean, it is what it is at this point, and hopefully they can get back to relevance because they are one of the premier franchises in the NBA historically. So we'll see. Hopefully Cooper Flag can be the answer for them.
Yeah. This last thing I want to talk about is draft talk. I don't know if we talked since the lottery, but even still, we're going to rehash some of the things that happened. So obviously Washington won the lottery. Washington's had a great past couple months getting trade. AD, SARS taking a jump, and you got the number 1 pick. There's been some rumblings that Utah could potentially trade up to go get AJ if the Wizards are able. I've heard some talks about Boozer going to Utah. His dad's a part of the staff there. And then you got, some interesting newcomers in the lottery, like the Bulls, who have a number 4 pick. Talks have been around Caleb Wilson. And then you have the Grizzlies, who have a lot of questions, are surrounding their current roster, but now they can go get a guy that kind of, is their franchise piece. And then, a team like Indiana, who made the trade for Ivica Zubac, and now that was their pick because they flirted with the idea of getting a top 4 pick, but they put that contingency spot with the Clippers, and the Clippers, got that, top 4 pick from them. And so now they're without a pick. So I guess like the question I had, I know, you watch a little bit of the college basketball game, but like just in terms of the top end of the lottery, like what are you thinking? What are some of the immediate thoughts that come to your mind?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Wizards do. First off, that top pick, because like you said, they just got Trey, they got AD. Does AD really want to be there? Who knows?
Yeah.
I've seen things saying that he doesn't want to be there. He might come out next week and say he wants to be there. Who knows? They got SAR, like you said. They got a lot of young pieces. They drafted your boy Trey Johnson last year. That's his name, right? Trey Johnson from Texas. Yeah. So they got some young pieces and some veteran pieces now. So do you add AJ? Do you trade the pick? Do you take somebody else, Darren Peterson? Where do you go if you're Washington?
If I'm the GM, I'm entertaining every call from Utah. We know that Ace Bailey wanted to be there yet last year. I feel like one of the reasons why, and this is smart, but one of the reasons why Danny Ainge took Ace Bailey anyway, when he vocalized he wanted to be in Washington, was like, he knew that Washington was going to be sorry. And so if they were to get the number 1 pick, now he has leverage, because I think Ace Bailey is cool being in Utah, but I think he kind of wants to be in a more premier destination. So I would personally trade the pick. I now have a potential number 2 pick. I have Ace Bailey, who was, a top pick last year, and I have AD, I have Trey. And low-key is kind of the same situation as Dallas. It's like, I think AD might be on the block again. I think he might be moved. because this gets real heavy in terms of the front court. But like, I think that the problem is, it's kind of like Dallas. What do you do? Do you just wait to see what that roster looks like, or do you just invest in your young guys? Because you still got Bilal. I don't know how to say his last name, but you got Trey Johnson, you got Alex Sarr, and plus this number 2 pick and Ace Bailey. Is like, do you just let them rock out and see what they can become? But the danger is that in that is you become the Brooklyn Nets, where if these guys are talented and good, but there's no real like star, then you're going to be stuck just being trade bait for a lot of contending teams that need the extra piece. You're going to be the goodwill of the NBA. So I think it's really on them to kind of assess where is Trey, like who can best support Trey. Is it like a DP, or is it Cam Boozer? So yeah, I would trade the pick personally to answer your question.
Yeah, I feel like Washington that can shake up the draft right there alone, that first pick. And then you look at the Jazz. If the Jazz do stay put at 2, I'm assuming they go Darren. But I mean, they have Keontae George. They have, like you said, Ace Bailey, Walker Kessler, Laurie. So I'm like, they have some Jaren Jackson. They have some pieces. So it's like, where do they go with the second pick? I feel like there's a lot of questions with some of these top teams in the draft before you even get to Memphis, Chicago, Clippers, because like you said, for Memphis, they're looking for their franchise centerpiece now, especially if they plan on moving Ja. Now, if they plan on keeping Ja and pairing them with somebody, that'll be interesting too, to see what direction they move in, because they did move Bane, they did move Jaren Jackson. They have some young pieces on the roster already, but who do you decide to pair and play down there? So I feel like there's a lot of questions. And then of course Chicago, they had Matthijs a couple years, or last year, 2 years ago. But I mean, outside of that, who do they have on their roster? So
yeah,
we'll see.
Who do you think is a bigger upside, AJ or Darren?
I'm gonna say AJ, and I say that because at any point Darren can decide not to play. Your best ability is availability. I'm gonna say it again. Your best ability is availability. I need my top pick on the court. I don't want to be questioning if you playing tonight or if your legs are cramping. I need you out there on the court.
Yeah. I would say AJ, just because it looks like, AJ can do a little bit more on both sides. And I think AJ's length and physicality is something that teams are going to need coming in and playing. My only problem with Darren's one of the best scorers that I've seen come out of the college game, but the availability is a concern. And his ability to play within a system is another concern. Because, yes, he's a great scorer, but so is Cam Thomas. I'm not comparing the two, but what I am saying is, like, in terms of get a bucket guys, we were all raving about who Cam Thomas was in Brooklyn. And now I don't know if he's on a roster. And I think some of that is just because of that silo nature with Cam and his inability to play within the system. I feel like Kawhi was one of the best two-way players that we've ever seen in our lifetime. But like, we can't deny that there's been issues with the Clippers, the Spurs, and Toronto. And so I think your talent kind of outweighs the drama. But I think if you could get in a room with Bill Self will tell you, bro, I was tired of this. Like I was kind of hot. We paid him all this money for what? And I think no NBA team is going to put up with that. And I think he had to be uber talented for teams to deal with the drama. And we didn't hear as much drama with AJ. So that's the only thing that concerns me. But I do believe that in terms of a creator, I think that he can be vital on any team. So I'm excited to see what he is in the league if we get to see him in the league, if that makes sense. So
Donovan Mitchell.
Right. That's a good point. And another hidden thing that I also want to talk about is like, years ago, I remember reading an article and they were talking about how Patrick Mahomes fundamentally changed how teams drafted. Like a lot of teams would come in and they would focus on getting pass rushers because they knew they were either going to be behind and they knew that, Patrick Mahomes was going to have to be stopped that way. And I'm curious to know what teams do with Wemby, because I think who won in the combine was Ademara from Michigan. I think he's like 7'2", 7'3", but he had crazy numbers in the combine. For him to move that fast and be that agile, that tall, he's been moving up draft boards. And we see that even the backup big for Michigan, Marez Johnson Jr., he kept his name in the draft. And I'm curious to know, like, my rant earlier with Wemby was like, Shaq changed how teams constructed their roster, having 3 to 4 bigs on their roster. I wonder if we shift back to that with Wemby. I'm curious because I'm sure that Ademara's combine numbers is one of the reasons he's propelling so high. But I also think teams are looking at like a Wemby and like seeing that he's young and that roster is going to be together for the next decade. And I wonder if more bigs are going to be valued a lot more than the guards, like moving forward, especially versatile bigs.
And especially if they can get to the finals and potentially win it.
Yeah.
Like that changes it because he's the catalyst. Like he's the reason that they are where they are right now. 7'4", 7'5", can move. Your best bet is throwing multiple bodies at him.
Exactly.
So and that wouldn't surprise me if teams, do start to go after more size, more bigs, to try to counter that. But then again, it's only one person. So I mean, it's not like the entire league has a Wemby or multiple teams has a Wemby. Who knows? Because I mean, you look at somebody like Jokic, look at somebody like Embiid, like those are premier type centers. They do it in other ways, but I don't see teams going out and changing, their strategy for them. It's like you just let them get theirs and hope you can slow down everybody else. So I mean, maybe that's the approach of other teams. We're going to take best available, or whatever our team needs, and just hope that we can slow down everybody else outside of Wemby. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's where I think Cam Boozer could be effective because he's not Wemby at all. But I think in terms of that point center kind of combo, what you're saying with Jokic and what people thought like with Sengun in Houston, I feel like Cam Boozer would give you that flexibility. Like if he ends up like at a Washington 1-9, there was games I remember vividly, like the Duke Virginia Tech game where he was bringing the ball up the court and Shire was running him as the point because the center that was guarding him was always going to be at a mismatch. And so I think that ability to blow by people but also dominate in the post is like where I think it kind of transitions towards. But I think one of the things from game 2 was seeing that OKC was keeping Hartenstein on Wemby. I feel like those guys are the winners. So like a Marez Johnson Jr., I think can be a body in the league. Like you have Flanagan from Portland, you have Edey and Memphis. Like those kind of guys I think they would have been out of the league quickly if they couldn't move or couldn't, do anything. But I think those guys are going to get second contracts, especially under this luxury tax, because especially in the West, people are thinking in the back of their mind about if we ever face Wemby, we needed somebody who can, at least throw a body at him.
Right. Yeah. The footers are back.
Back. The facts. Yeah. So that's it, man. So you got anything else?
Nah, that's all I got right now, man. Exciting times, playoff basketball. We're gonna see what happened tonight.
We got
I'm gonna go OKC tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Spurs. I think this is gonna be another all-timer, and I think Wemby has an elite performance again. I think it's like a 35-20 game, but yeah, I think they pull it out late.
Bro, he putting up some crazy numbers, bro.
41-24. That's insane.
Crazy, bro.
Bro, I can't even imagine. they're gonna have to fundamentally shift the cap when his time comes, because he's gonna have a couple of all NBAs. We hope that he doesn't have an MVP finals. Man, he might. I think he's starting at 70
years. Bro, this man averaging about almost 4 blocks a game, bro.
I guess moving forward, like, you move off of the De'Aaron, right? And you just go Harper and Stephon in the backcourt.
Yeah, but I don't think Harper's ready yet. Like I said earlier, I don't think he's ready yet. I think it's a good decision to keep De'Aaron. I think maybe they keep him another year, depending on what happens in this playoff run. But I think him missing the game that he did showed his value and his worth. Mm-hmm. So I think that allowed him another year at least. Because like you said, he isn't that old. He's what, 29 maybe?
Yeah, like something around there.
Somewhere around there. I don't think he's 30 yet. I don't think. Like, yeah, I mean, still capable. I think he'll get another year before they hand over the keys.
I guess, but my thing is, if you, like, let's say they don't make the NBA Finals this year, mm-hmm. What do you do in the draft? Because they still have the 12th pick. Like,
I trade it. Like we talked about before, like, they still have pieces to go out and make a major move if they want to.
Yeah.
If they want to. Yeah. Like, they have the role players. Fox is 28. He'll be 29 in December. So, still young. But, I mean, if they wanted to include Fox in the trade and go get somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, could you go get Wembanyama's work? Or could you go get KD?
But see, like I said, it depends on what happens in this series because, bro, this man Wemby is different, bro. Like, I don't even think you even need a Giannis, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even need another star, bro. Like, if anything, bro, like, go get some more shooters. That's really it. And potentially a point guard if you move off of Fox. But I mean, I just don't think Harper's ready yet to have the keys to the offense just yet. I have a lot of questions with that backcourt of Castle and Harper if that's what they're gonna be throwing out next year.
Yeah, and I think there's some guys that need a little bit more development, like your Carter Bryants, because obviously if you move Dillon to the starting position, you got to bolster up that bench. Because I feel like, low key to your point, one of the reasons why I think Dylan Harper's excelling so much is because he's playing against the team second strings. And like, nobody's really game planning for Dylan specifically like they are Castle and Wemby. So now when you transition to that and you don't have a relief factor in De'Aaron, I think one of both him and Stephon's problem is like being flustered with a Kassan Wallace and having to play make and still control the ball, but also control the tempo. And I think that's where De'Aaron Fox is ever most valuable.
And especially if he's out the game. Like, exactly. How does that look? So, yeah, I would run it back with De'Aaron Fox until I see some more from Harper. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think this postseason run is going to determine a lot about San Antonio's future because Wemby's a star.
Oh, yeah, superstar for sure. Face the league, easy.
Yeah,
easy. And I think it kind of changes the math on the Spurs' plans, but also the West, because like the teams you're watching right now, I wouldn't even be surprised if 3 years down the road we're having the same conversation about OKC and San Antonio for the Western Conference Finals. So I think a lot more teams like a Minnesota, maybe Denver, make a lot more moves because this is not changing.
That boy different, man. That's all I can say at this point, bro. Like, he's different, bro. Like, We haven't seen a player change the game on both sides of the ball like this in a while.
Facts. Like not even just the impact on the court, but just the aura of Wemby. Like that iconic photo where he's like standing in front of the bench looking up in the crowd. Like that kind of aura like, people haven't seen since maybe Bron. So I'm curious to know, like, moving forward, people want it to be Jordan. People want it to be Bron. It's like, what is the conversation around Wemby? Because it's just like, it feels so otherworldly because, a lot of 7'5" guys not walking through the door, but like how kids gravitate to Wemby moving forward,
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna go see him when he comes to Detroit next year. And it's like, if I'm 27, so it's like, I can't imagine what 12-year-old Morez wants to do.
Running around with a Wemby jersey on.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is like, what I wonder if Wemby's like ready for what comes with being the face of the league, because everybody's going to expect you to be in the finals every year, and it's just like we've never seen. I want to make sure I'm right with this. Yeah, we've never seen a non-American face of the league in our league in any sport. So it's like, what does that look like? Because I think the point that made a lot of the faces of the leagues so great was their relatability. Nobody was 6'8" and could jump out the gym like Brian, but everybody related to the idea he came from Akron and worked himself up to what he became. Like, I think even like when we look at like Pat Mahomes, like Pat Mahomes is the face of the league, but he's not like crazy athletic. A lot of people can see him and see a normal guy like themselves. Nobody can see themselves as Wemby. So it's like, I wonder how that translates just in terms of having the responsibility of a face of the league.
Yeah, and I think he's ready, bro. Like I said, bro, like he's a dog, bro. Like I feel like his marketability is gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like he's ready, bro. I feel like he's ready. Yeah. He says a lot of the right things.
Yeah.
And his play backs it up.
Yeah. And I think, like, unlike Jokic, I think he wants to be over here. And I think he relates to a lot of the American players. So I think that's a plus as well. So I'm curious. I feel like the conversation might not necessarily, well, personally as a basketball fan, like I don't necessarily want the conversation to be Victor versus OKC. I like player versus players. Like a Victor versus AE moving forward would be like the interesting kind of rivalry. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. And did you see the comment that AE made the other day? He had posted something on social media. He was like, yeah, when Wemby threw that elbow at at old dude, he's like, yeah, he's like 8'5" out there. I was hoping they suspended him. I was like, dang, that just shows his impact though, bro. Like his impact on the game on both sides. Like he changes the game plan, bro. Like that man's different, bro. He's different.
Facts. Yeah, I just don't know what the next level looks like. Well, I know we haven't seen it, and that's what's exciting, but it's also scary for the league. Because it's like, if he gets one, he's not the type where he can just chill. I think he's ready to be in those Bron Jordan conversations, and getting one this early, sky's the limit for that guy.
Bro, like I said, bro, he already got a defensive player of the year, bro. He already averaging almost 4 blocks a game, bro. Like, as long as he stays healthy, bro, the league is in trouble. He about to, I don't know what the record is for defensive player of the year, but he might break it.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about SGA and the flops?
I don't know, bro. Like, I get why people are like frustrated, but like, bro, I don't know, bro. Like, it doesn't bother me as much, but like, I understand why people are frustrated, but like, me personally, it don't bother me, bro. Like, cause like they showed one replay the other day where like Buddy didn't even run into him and Buddy fell. I'm just like, okay, like you're bogus for that. But like, bro. If the refs calling it, the refs calling it, bro.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like it's up to the referees.
Yeah. I feel like looking at like Luka's game, like one of the things I recognize is like non-athletic guys have to find a way to still contribute. And a lot of the NBA is more about, mindset manipulation because everybody's athletic, everybody can jump out the gym. And so I think from that standpoint, I get, SGA leveraging his movements in order to get to the foul line to contribute. I think what happens is him just falling out of nowhere and it's just getting distasteful because at that point it's just like, all right, bro, like you're just doing it, in order to get a whistle. Like go and score and then make them value. And like you said, I think it is on the refs. I feel like he's in a tough position because I think a lot of the refs, don't get a lot of calls right just because everything's happening so fast. But like I think for just the way the league is going, it's kind of scary to think about the fact that like, guys could potentially foul out of games and games can be decided on bogus calls. And I think that kind of needs to be taken out of the game. So, and it's not just, the thing is, it's not just an SGA problem. Like people are talking about this with Embiid, people are talking about this with Luka. Like it's a league-wide problem. And I think it's just as insidious as tanking, but also too, it's like, we're not gonna deny there was a lot of times I was looking at SGA and he made some tough shots. And I was like, okay, like that is skill too. So it's not just all flopping. I just think it's been so much that that's all people are looking at now. And it's just like, all right, bro. Like some of these are fouls too, but also too, you got to do better.
Couple of questions. One, do they still find the players for like flopping and stuff? And like, has SGA been getting fined?
I don't know. Like, I have no idea, bro. Like in terms of the ramifications of it, I know that there's like you could get a tech for it, but I don't know if that leads to a fine.
Second question. Do you think that do you think that all fouls should be reviewed?
No, because I feel like that's going to make the game even longer and then basketball's going to turn into baseball. I feel like it's on the players and the culture. Like the same way we're talking about people sitting out. It's the same thing with flopping. It's like, bro, we played basketball before. Everybody screams and one when they go into the rim. Everybody calls a foul whenever they have the ball turned over. But like it's important for, like you said, the refs to kind of navigate through the BS in order to call a good game. And I think like for SGA, seeing how his career has evolved, it looks like he was taught that. And I don't know if that was a Dayton Hall thing, but it looks like that's kind of like a cultural thing where they're trying to figure out ways to manipulate the system. And so that's when the league is on the league to make adjustments, but also to honor the flow of the game. Because if that's the case, everybody's going to be stopping and say, okay, that was a flop. Right. Because like when you look at a replay, a lot of these fouls, like, bro, that wasn't a foul. But the refs can't say that in the moment.
Exactly.
I think the other thing though is like the one thing I do fear is like the Jordan rules are going to start happening with Wemby, because there were clear fouls on Wemby that weren't being called on Isaiah Hartenstein in the name of physicality. And I was listening to Chuck and the boys, and Chuck was talking about how it's not physical at all. And it's like, I get it, but the markability of the NBA is better when everybody's healthy. If you put these Jordan rules on Victor and Victor ends up getting hurt, which being that size, he's more susceptible to do, it's going to ruin the game. So it's just like they're trying to let him play, but I'm looking at some of the things. I'm like, you're calling flop on one end. Well, you're calling fouls on one end on SGA. Man, Wemby's getting a hack, and he's going to have to deal with it. I don't think that's the thing that's bogus.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So gotta call it consistently.
Yeah. I'm interested to see like how this league changes because of Wemby, honestly. It's just like some of the stuff he's doing is just like, bro, you can't stop this. You can't. So yeah. All right, bro. Let me go watch this game, man. I'm excited for this pivotal game 5. Yeah. So Winning Shot family, I'm so excited that you guys got the experiences with us, man. We're in probably one of the best series of the playoffs so far. So y'all go and watch the game with us, comment, and let us know what you want to talk about in the next NBA episode. John is out on his honeymoon, so he's gonna be back, and we're gonna be talking about some NFL, maybe a little bit of the college game. Hundo said he's gonna be bringing in John to talk about the WNBA. So we got a lot of content coming your way. As always, please make sure on that button below, like, share, and subscribe. Share this with somebody who doesn't know about the winning shot, because we don't want to just talk about Wemby amongst each other. We want to talk with y'all, and we want to engage with y'all, maybe even get you on the show sometime. So let us know what you think. Let us know what y'all want to talk about so that we can engage with y'all as well. And as always, man, we appreciate the love and support that we've already gotten and what we're yet to receive. So as always, peace, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.